First part recorded, which is awesome. Okay, good. We're back in. Welcome to the second half of InDesign. Very good. So we just went through in the first video, in the first half, we just went through the zooming and panning and frames and how frame tools worked and adding text and threading text and formatting text. We're going to deep dive a little bit right now more into styles. We'll talk a little bit more about character styles and paragraph styles and how they work. We're going to go ahead and play around with what linked files are. So we'll talk about what linked files are. We'll play around with the line tools and the guides, and that'll wrap up InDesign. So, but let's without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the style part. So as I talked about, so if I had something like this, select this text for a second. I'm going to come on over here in text styles, and we talked about paragraph styles and character styles. I want to go ahead and set up some both of those. Again, I talked about how paragraph styles apply to all of paragraphs and that kind of stuff, and you're looking at spacing and margin around it, and as well as text styles inside of it. And character styles are really more of, you know, here is my bold and here's my italic style and things like that. So that's really it. You can actually save that out as more like a template file if you think your styles, just like you can in Word. So you could actually create like a brand's paragraph and type styles, character styles, save those out, and then I'll actually allow them to save that and share that and use it in other documents, or give it to somebody else that works on the team that goes ahead and edits documents and stuff. So it's really kind of nice and powerful. Very much like it is in Word, but just more powerful. InDesign is really like a lot more powerful version of Word, if you think about it. So these are essential for, not so much for small documents, but for books, large documents, textbooks, things like that. So every time I'm picking back on a book up here, I have 500 Indian recipes from all over India and Southeast Asia. Really cool book, actually. And as you can see, something like this is like a book like this. Every page has the same style applied to images and headings, and when they do ingredients, and when they do step-by-step directions, and they have like little panels for like a cook's tip, which is kind of like a block quote. All of that kind of stuff you wouldn't want to do manually. You wouldn't want to set all that up manually every single page. This book is, you know, 200 and something pages, 250 pages. You would literally, if you all of a sudden said like, well, I want to make all of those styles a little different, you would have to go and edit 250 pages and edit all of them. But if you set them up as a paragraph style or a character style, you can go ahead and edit it all just one time, and it would update all of them. So that's really the goal behind those. I got a lot of cooking books right here. I moved some stuff in the office recently, and kind of all the not all of them, but a few of the cooking books randomly showed up on my shelf back here, which is kind of funny. But they're pretty looking, so I don't mind them as a backdrop. But anyway, it's kind of weird. Okay. So what I'm going to do is in the paragraph style over here, as you can see, it's saying no styles. And what that means is that by default, I don't have any styles being used right now. If I go ahead and click on this little drop-down area, see it says basic paragraph. If I click on that, it will apply the basic paragraph styling, which realistically, there isn't one set up. There is no style set up right now, right? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to format this how I want. And I'm going to go and click the plus button here, which will add a new paragraph style. And I'm going to call this maybe just default, or, you know, yeah, default paragraph, default. Perfect. Press enter. Now it's named it as that, and it's set it, whatever I've already had set up, it's going to set that up. So this is my default paragraph style. I go ahead and I could actually, if I kind of click on this little drop-down arrow, I can go ahead and click the edit button, style options, and it'll bring up my full paragraph style options dialog. If you get enough screen real estate, you can actually even click preview, and anything you change in here will automatically get updated, so you get to see what the differences are. Got basic character format, so it's going to come in here, and it's definitely not Minion Pro. It's Lato, and thought I had it at hairline. Yeah, hairline. There we go at 11, and again that was 11 times 1.6. Oops! If you press enter, don't press enter. Press There we go. Don't press enter. Press tab. Okay. That's good for now. I'm going to go to indents and spacing on the side here, and I want to go ahead and add space after 2 paragraphs. It looks like actually we're not applying the styling, so we're going to make sure that we do. But I want to go ahead and add a little bit of space after. Do 0.375 inches. Press OK. And try to figure out why default's not selected. It's like things are locked up or something. Come on, what are you doing? What you doing? Selected all. Default. There it goes. There it goes. So I had to select it all and then hit default first. But now that I've done that, I can go in here and edit the default. So I can come in here and go indents and space. And that's way too much space afterwards. So bring it down. Well, definitely a little bit. Okay. You can do a first line indent if that was like a thing you wanted to set up, say in your document. That's what that is. You can add space in front of paragraphs. I usually just add it after. I find it a little easier to manage, just having space after. You can right indent, left indent. You can change your alignment to left justify, for example, which is good. There's a bunch of smart stuff in here, but that's okay. We don't need to play around with that just yet. There's a lot going on here, though. There's even drop caps, which is really neat. So drop caps would be like, you know, the first character. I want to go ahead and span 2 lines, span 3 lines, span 4 lines. It'll automatically do that. So I could say, you know, the first 2 characters, whatever it is, check that out. Isn't that cool? And just lines the left edge. Otherwise, it just would do that. But if I line the left edge, kind of smartly align it. It's really, really neat on how you can do that. You can also, too, which is character style, you can actually go ahead and build a character style for this. So if you wanted something very, very specific, only for drop caps, you can go ahead and do that. So you can go ahead and say, like, you know, I want it to be blue, for example. I'm just going to try to make something real quick. But you can have blue, for example, or come in here, you know, and edit that however you want. So you could have that pre-set up, which is cool. Awesome. There's bullets and numbering. There's all kinds of stuff too here, but this is really probably where I want to go. I could put rules on, so I could put lines and stuff on and have it like rule below, rule above, all that kind of stuff. You can really play around with if I have lines and things like that. Tabs also are here. You can set up tab spots, stops, and stuff, and that's definitely something we'll be playing with. Just because, you know, we did it in Word, so now we have to do it in InDesign. I'm sorry. But not today. We won't be playing around with those today. But something like that as a paragraph style is really cool because now I can, you know, really quickly format my document and have it the way I want to. Character style would be this bold, right? So coming in here, double clicking on this and clicking paragraph styles at the top and going new paragraph style and calling it bold. Not nold, but bold. And then go ahead and click edit. Same thing. It's cool. Make sure preview's on. I'm going to go ahead and maybe do something weird, right? So let's go ahead and make sure it's Lato. And we're going to make it heavy. We're going to maybe decrease the size. So right now, it's normal 11. Let's make it like 9. Let's make it all uppercase. Let's add some spacing in between. You can go like... put some spacing between the letters here. Okay, that's kind of cool. Maybe I want to change the color of it to blue or red or something. You know, maybe I want to add a custom color here too. I can go ahead and set whatever color I want just by double clicking that. You know, so I can go ahead and say like, well, I don't want it to be, I want it to maybe match maybe more of a color in here. So I can go ahead and say, you know, like a cyan, drop the magenta a little bit, you know, and darken it a little bit. There we go. That's cool. Do that. Color that I added, which I think is this one, and press OK. So now I've got this cool style for anytime I want something bold. So if I'm coming in here and I want this word bold, I got to just come in here, go character style, bold, and it'll set it, right? And again, it's the same thing. I can update all of those at once. So we're going to play around with that more in the future, but I just kind of wanted to give you the real basics of how paragraph styles work. Awesome. Let's go ahead and add another page to this document. I think that's definitely important, is the fact that like we're running out of pages here. So we definitely want to add a page. All I got to do is deselect everything, come on over here and click the add create page button. And it's going to go ahead and drop a new page just in this weird space down here, right? Because it's actually... it's looking at a layout like a book layout right now. That's how it's thinking. That's under I think it's adjust. Layout, orientation. I actually forget how to do that. You can change the facing pages. There it is. So I can turn facing pages off, and now it'll just sit by itself. So if you don't have facing pages, if you're not making a book, but maybe it's just front and back, you can go ahead and
Sorry,
turn it off
Chris.
facing pages. Yeah.
What button did you click to make the new page again?
Yeah, no problem. It's just this little plus button right here.
Okay, and that's just on the basic property selection.
Yeah.
Not,
if you
okay.
Correct. Yeah. So if you have no selection at the time, you'll get all the page stuff.
Okay. Cool.
Yep, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to move this guy down into here just for a sec. Actually, better yet, I'm going to delete this text box. Let's just get rid of it. And I'll show you what I want to do instead. Is I want to go ahead and I want to bring this header image and this text box in that exact location onto my new page. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this image and, right click copy, Command C, Control C. Come on down here and just for a second, I'm just going to paste it. When I go ahead and paste it, it's just going to drop it anywhere I want. I can move it, but I don't want to do that. I want to paste it exactly where it was on the previous document. Okay. So what I'm going to instead do is I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to go paste in place. And that will actually put it in the exact location that it came from. So same thing with this text box. This text box, go ahead, right click, copy. Select the new, make sure that you have the new page selected just by clicking on it. Right click, paste in place. And it'll put it in the exact location that it came from up here, right? So it's the same place. Now, of course, it doesn't have the images on it like the other one did, but maybe the same thing with this little graphic here. I want to put that graphic down in here too. So right click, paste in place. Boom, put it in there. So again, just a real quick way to make sure that you're bringing, those styles over the way you want to. Now, if I go up to view for a sec and I go back to my screen mode preview, I'm going to, again, drop everything that I don't see so I can kind of preview this document, see how this document's starting to look. So I think it's starting to look kind of cool. Not too happy with how this image looks, but that's okay for now, right? What I do want to note, though, is this display performance. So right now, it's detected because I have a powerful enough GPU or graphics processor. It's going to go ahead and it's been defaulting everything to high quality. What you might see is something more like a typical, sometimes, depending on your system, or artwork, or if the artwork's really big, or you have an older system, you might even get fast display. Fast display will literally look like this. It doesn't even show the images. And the reason why is because the images will slow down your computer. So it's just going to show you a preview. So you can go ahead and you can kind of switch between those. Maybe you're going to do most of your editing like this because it's a giant document, or it's just running slow in your system for some reason. I go back to typical display. This is normally what you would see. If I zoom in a little bit, actually typical is doing a really good job. But typical display, depending on the graphics that you're working on and stuff like that, sometimes won't even look this nice. So, but this one's actually doing a pretty good job. But sometimes if you're on typical, things are starting to look a little pixelated. Just make sure, just go up to view, change your display performance to high quality for just a sec, and it'll actually show you like more of a pixel perfect preview of what the images are going to look like and stuff. Now, we talked about that a little bit in Photoshop. Remember we talked about like PPI and stuff like that on images? This will do that as well. So if I go ahead and click, like now I'm looking at a linked file. If I double click, where is it? I think I have to open up window. So I'm selecting this image for a sec because I just want to see the PPI performance on it to see what my pixels per inch is. So we're going to go window. We're going to go info. Is it info? Where do they hide it? There it is, info. Yeah, that was a good guess, right? This is my info panel. So my info panel here is actually showing me actual PPI. That's just because it's what's being previewed. That's fine. That's what's previewing for this monitor. This effective PPI is what I want. So this effective PPI is over 1,000. So I know that this image is going to be perfect when it prints, right? If I kind of click around, this one's at 1374. This one's at 1259. This one's at 315. So I'm good. Now, if I were to double click, let's go back to normal preview for a sec. If I were to double click into this image and say I wanted to like really highlight one of the towers. So I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to make this image way larger. Okay. And kind of move in a bit. Right. And then maybe move this image down so I see it more like that. Maybe I'm like, yeah, that looks really cool. Well, the problem is now my effective PPI has dropped to 154. What that means is if I go send this to a printer and I want this printed at 300 dots per inch, this image is approximately half the resolution of what the printer is actually going to be printing at. So this image will definitely come out pixelated. I need to be at or above the quality that I want to print at. So if I'm printing at 300, I want to be at 300 or above. So I need to make sure that all my artwork is going to look like that. Otherwise, I'll tell you right now, 315, that's great. Otherwise, I'll tell you right now, you're going to order this and you're going to order, 10,000 and your printer's not going to pay attention. The printing company's not going to pay attention. And now you got 10,000 with this like crappy looking artwork at the top. And it happens all the time. You see it all the time, especially on banners, big pull-up banners. People will, print these big, 6 foot, 7, 8 foot tall banners, pull-up banners for a trade show. And a couple of the images in there will be super pixelated. And it's because on their screen, it looked great. When they go to print it, it didn't, because they didn't check the effective PPI. And that's really, really important, is that effective PPI. The other thing you're seeing is color space is RGB. So this won't be very accurate when I go ahead and print this. It's because these images came in RGB. The computer will have to convert them to CMYK. Mostly not an issue, but this info panel is really important. It's just window and then info. There's also a full links panel. The full links panel will give you this information as well, if I remember correctly. Shows you where the images are used. Yeah, so same thing. This image is used in 2 places according to the links. If I kind of make this bigger here, you can see, in this case, it's at 315. It's fine. So it's all good. So this is kind of like what you consider almost like a pre-flight status. So I'm coming in here and making sure that everything's okay. The other big part we need to talk about for linked files is the fact that they're linked. So if I were to go ahead, I'm going to save this file for a second. Okay. So I'm just going to go up to, sorry, one second. I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to go Save. I haven't saved this file, still untitled. I'm going to go ahead and we'll just drop this in my Downloads folder here and we'll call it Flyer Example 2022, and just press Save. Just going to save it as an INDD file. This file is not ready for print. You can't send this to a printer just yet. If I wanted to print this, what I would have to do is export it. So I'd have to go up to File. This is the best place to go, is Adobe PDF Presets. And then I can select one of my presets. So this is a conversation with your print house as to what standard they wanted. Very commonly, for some reason, X1A 2001 is one of your most backwards compatible PDF styles, right? High quality print might be fine too. So if I go ahead and go high quality print, it's going to ask me where I want to save it. So I can save it, in the same folder, the same name, because it's going to be a different file format. So it's okay. Press save. And it's going to come up this export PDF document settings. Now, there's a lot of things going on here. It's going to try to go back to compatibility of Adobe 5, which is really old, but that's fine. I'm going to go to compression for a sec. So you can see, take a look at this. It's going to go ahead and compress everything. So even if these images are at like 1500, when it goes and saves the PDF, it's actually going to compress that down to anything over 450, which this one, like this little image down here, for example, is like 1500 or 1300. It's going to compress it down to 300 anyway. So it's still going to look amazing. It's not going to be a problem, but it's going to go ahead and compress that for print, and that's fine. So it'll just kind of help with the file size, because you don't need to bring in all that information when you're going to be printing on a letter size, right? It already knows what size it's printing at. 8.5 by 11. It's not a problem. Marks and bleed, this is important. This is, again, you're going to talk to your printer. I've set this document up. If I want to send it for print, I'm going to make sure that I have some print stuff set up on it. So what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to definitely make sure that I got my crop marks. And those are little lines. I can go ahead and put on everything if you want. You can just go all printer marks. It's pretty neat. I'll show you what that looks like. But before you do anything else, make sure you come down here. It says use document bleed settings. This is really important. So if anything else, you want crop and document bleed settings. If you're sending this to print, you've set up a bleed. You want to make sure you save that bleed out. So you don't need the bleed marks, but the crop marks. That's where you're going to cut. That's important. But again, we're just going to turn everything on. I'll show you what that looks like. And make sure you're doing document bleed settings. If you go ahead and send this to the printer and the printer's like, nah, I need you to send it back to me with 8-inch bleeds, you don't even need to change the artwork. You can just do it in the export. So you can actually come in here and just type in, 0.125, and now it'll actually resave it out as a PDF with a smaller bleed. Of course, you can't get larger bleeds, but you can go smaller. That's fine. But that's why I always like, if I'm going to design a bleed, do the bleed a little bigger, and you can always re-decrease it afterwards. A lot easier, right? But use document bleed settings is going to work. It's really all I need to do, again, is really come in here. Compression, I didn't need to change anything. I was just kind of showing you how that worked. Didn't have to change anything in general. It's really that marks and bleeds. You don't want to forget this part. It's really important. Go ahead and click export. It's saying there's overset text on pages 1 and 2. It just means that text is being going kind of off the page. It's fine. Just press OK. It's not an issue. We don't have that issue. Okay, so it's done it, right? You can't even tell what it's done. Everything looks fine. I'm going to go ahead and just open up my downloads folder for a sec. Where did I put my downloads folder? There's my downloads folder. There is my document right here. Flyer example 2022 PDF. It's 1.2 megabytes. My InDesign file is 4.9 megabytes. So you can tell it's definitely smaller than the working editable file. This is the file I need to send. The PDF is what I send to my printer. I do not send the InDesign file. I'm going to open up this PDF file for just a second. I want to show you what it looks like. There we go. So this has everything. So it's got registration marks, which is this little this mark right here to kind of show you kind of where they can line up the print head. It's got colors here to kind of say this is 100%, yellow. This is 100% magenta. This is 100% cyan, and so on and so forth. These are all standard from PDF all the time from this, so they know this is 100% black. This is 0% black. That's 50%. So they can calibrate their printer based on these if they needed to. Again, a lot of times printers don't need that. They really just need these marks right here. See these little marks right here? That's the mark where they go ahead and run a slicer and cut. So that's where the cut's going to be right there. These other lines here on the outside, these ones here, that's just showing where the bleeds go to, the edge. So again, really not necessary. The really necessary part is that middle one, is that inside marks. That's the necessary part, because that's going to tell the printer where to cut. But if I kind of look at this looks beautiful, right? Like quality is fantastic. Right now I'm at 137% zoom. I can go right down to 200% zoom, and everything's beautiful, crisp text, beautiful text. Images are all really nice quality. I can see there's no problems at all. Cut lines are nice. Everything's looking really, really good. There's no quality problems at all. So this is as close to sending a vector over to a printer as possible, coming from InDesign. And this is a professional tool for printing. So this is perfect, ready to rock, ready to get printed. It's going to look awesome. It's going to get cut properly. Everything is the way it needs to be. Right to the printer, right? So that's really cool. Now, if I want to save this same file for web or email, I don't want to send that file. That file's pretty big, right? That file is 1.2 megabytes. It started to get pretty big. This happened a lot with you guys with your resumes, I found. They were just a bit big on file size. If you set your resume up in InDesign, it's a great place to design it. Come in here, go ahead and instead do an Adobe PDF preset, and you can start with the smallest file size if you like. Okay, I'm going to rename this one to web, right? So this is the one I'm going to email and I'm going to put it on a website. Go ahead and press save. Now, what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to go ahead and go to compression this time. And as you can see what it's going to do, it's going to bring down the images now to 100, right? And it's going to take my image quality and set it to low. That's way too low. I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and still go to high. I don't want to go to maximum, but I want to set my color, my grayscale. I'm having grayscale anyway. Both of them to high image quality. They're going to be JPEGs, so low would actually look really terrible. 100's okay. 150 would be better, but that's fine. Marks and bleeds, I don't want any of this. I don't want any marks. I don't want any bleeds. I want it to just cut right to the edge, and that's fine. It's really the compression I want to make sure that I'm where I want to be. And I'm going to click export, and we'll take a look what that's going to look like. This is a web version. It's 158 kilobytes. You can see it's a lot smaller. So if I come in here and I go to 100% zoom, it looks okay. The images are, this image at the top is a little lower quality. Text looks great. So I could probably do with going a little bit higher quality, especially if people look at it zoomed in a little bit. They're going to see a little bit of compression at the top. It really depends on how they look at it. So I could go ahead and adjust that. I'll show you how to do that. Back to File, Adobe PDF, smallest file size. Back to here. If you're on the Mac, click this little down arrow. It'll reveal everything, so you can kind of see what's going on. There's the web one. Save. Oh, to replace it. Yeah, I want to replace the web one. Okay, back to compression. Now, back to the high. Definitely want to set that to high. That's good. But now for my bicubic sampling, I'm going to go down to 150, I think, on both on color as well. and press export. We'll take a look at that. See how that turned out instead. So you can see it's a little bigger. It's like 158. Now it's 233 kilobytes. Again, it's like 1/4 of a meg. It's really, really tiny. And that looks a lot better. This image here is exactly where I want to be. 150, I think, nailed it. Really, it's not going to look better than this for web. I wouldn't print this. It's going to not look good in print. But for web, emailing, all that kind of stuff, it's exactly what I want it to be. So this is, you're sending somebody your resume. You got some nice artwork on it. You're sending somebody a letterhead. You're emailing something like that. It's great. As soon as you want to print it with that high quality flyer graphics and stuff, then you're definitely going to want, you know, you don't want to hold anything back. You want that really, really high quality 1.2 megabyte file. But this will also load a lot faster on the web than that other file will, right? And it'll still look really good. So those are export, really important. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure you're saving often, right? So Command S, Control S saves all the time. The other thing that I was going to mention, I forget what it was. We did export. That's good. Getting ready for print. That's good. Maybe that was it. Maybe that's all I was going to talk about were those two. Oh, right. Linked files. So that's great, right? Save this up. It's fantastic. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just close it. I'm going to close both of these for a sec. I had one from last year too. And what's happened is this file is 5.2 megabytes. This is going to happen to you probably. It's referencing images. The images actually aren't in it. So do you remember, like, we had these start files here? So these 4 images, look how big these images are. This one's 5.3 megabytes. This one's 2.4 megabytes. This is 1.4, 1.3. There's almost 10 megabytes worth of images. My file for my InDesign file is 5 megabytes. So I know right off the bat, it's not. The images aren't in there. Because if the images were in there, it'd be 15 megabytes. They're not. They're not embedded images. They're called linked images. So those images are being referenced. And the computer, InDesign, needs to know where on the computer those images are. So if I come in here, for example, and I rename this start files folder to, like, you know, assets or something, and maybe I move it into my downloads folder. Okay, I'm just going to move a couple things. Now I got my assets file here. There's the images that I was using. They're still here, right? Now I'm going to open up to edit this InDesign file again. I want you to show you the error that you get. Right away, it says this document contains 5 links to sources that are missing. You can find or relink the missing links using the links panel, right? So it's telling you what to do, and it's telling you can't find it. What it's saying is, I can't find those images, man. Like, you had the images somewhere when you originally worked on this, but now I can't find it. And this happens a lot because students love sending me InDesign files and not the images. Which is fine. I'll tell you guys how you're going to submit these files. It's important. But that's really the basics of this, right? So these images, now it'll preview it. Take a look at this. It previews it. It's smart enough to know, like, that these images were here. But you see those little red question marks. And if I were to go save this, export this out, it's only saved a very low resolution preview of this image. It hasn't saved the actual image in the file. It's nice that it even did this. I think older versions, it would just be that you wouldn't see anything, right? You'd just see like a box, a blank box. So it's actually showing you kind of a thumbnail representation, but if you zoom in, it's really low quality. And it's not going to export at all. So what I need to do is I need to fix that. So I can go ahead and I can click on this little red, see that little red question mark? I can go ahead and do that. And it's going to go ahead and say, like, hey, just giving you permission on the Mac to open up and start looking at your files. And it's going to say, go find this image, locate this image. Is Unsplash. This top one here, go ahead and find it. So I know that I put it in assets, and it's this, you know, what was it, the Satoshi Nagoya? Yeah, this one here. So I'm gonna go ahead. You can make this a little bigger. I can't see the whole text. Anyway, that's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that and press open. Watch this. It will relink that file, and it'll search through that folder and says, "Hey, we just searched." Like around, we know you showed us one of the images. We just looked in that folder to see if there's other images, and we found and relinked them all for you. So that's really cool. So if you have, like, could you imagine if you had like 1,000 images in a document and you go ahead and moved them, and then you had to relink each 1,000 images, would be insane. So instead, you just got to find one of them, and as soon as it finds that one, it knows relatively that the other ones should be there, and it looks for them. And as long as it can find them, it'll go ahead and fix that for you. So you can press OK. And now everything has got the little, now it's got a little, instead of the red question mark, little red solid circle with that little question mark in it, now it has a little link icon. right? So we know that everything's good and everything's ready to rock again. And it's as simple as that. And this gives me now the ability to edit this file, continue editing in this file. Now, when you go ahead and submit things in this during this term for this semester for these files, for InDesign files, I'm going to want the original InDesign file, but I don't need the linked images. I just really, unless I ask you specifically for the linked images, I really just need the InDesign file to look at your edits. And then I'm going to ask you for a completed PDF, because the PDF is going to demonstrate to me what your intent was, what the look of it was, right? So if I don't have the right fonts on my computer, if I don't have the right images, that's okay. It's all going to be in the PDF. That's the beauty of a PDF, is you don't have to worry about that in a PDF. When I go ahead and export that PDF, I don't need to send the printer my font and my images, because it's all going to be embedded in the PDF. That's the point of a PDF, is it's ready to go. Product, ready, or print, ready to go, right? Ready to rock. And that's really, really important. That's why it's called the portable documents format. I think that's what PDF stands for, if I remember correctly. Portable documents format is, or portable document format, because it's literally meant for portable documents. Documents you can email, documents you can send to a printer, whatever it is, right? You can send it, everything's ready, everything's good to go. If instead I wanted to share this with somebody on my team, if I wanted to share this with the printer wanted the source file for some reason, I wanted to share with anybody, and I need them to have the original images, then I would have to go ahead. I would send them the InDesign file, and I would send them like all of the other images, and so that they could link them up and get that to work. Awesome. Okay, let's see if we missed anything. I think, oh, guides. We forgot to talk about guides. That's the last part of it. So this is really simple. The last little part of this is guides. This is cool. So I'm coming in here, and I was using the margin to go ahead and set this up. But say, for example, I wanted to make sure that all my images lined up. So say I had like this image here and wanted it to line up with this one. InDesign's got what's called smart guide. So as I'm moving around, do you see like the little flashing that's happening with lines? Like there's a line there, there's a line there. What's it doing is these little green are called smart guides. They're showing up automatically as I move things around. It's going to just try to help me line things up. So if I kind of, to the center of the image, to the bottom of that image, to the reference over here, like all of that, which is cool. But the other way you can do it is you can create manual guides. So all I got to do to make a manual guide, it's really, really cool. I could right click and I could go to, never do it this way. Guides. Do you guys see guides? I don't see guides. Maybe you can't do it this way anymore. That's fine. You just come on here on the right-hand side into the ruler, and I'm just going to drag and click and drag from the ruler in. And you see that blue line that's all of a sudden showing up? That's my guide. And it's going to snap. So it's going to snap directly to the side of that image. And that's going to create a guide on my page. And then I can move this to that guide. So say, for example, I wanted, I don't know why, but say I wanted it like that or something, or wanted it here or something like that, and I wanted that lined up to that, I could do that. These are called guides. You can have many. You can bring them down from the top. You can bring them down from the left. And these guides will help you kind of just line stuff up. So if you have multiple things, you can line them up to and really create your document however you need to do. To get rid of them, you can just go ahead and click on them and hit delete. Click on them, hit delete. Or if they're locked, because you can lock guides. So if I right click on this guide and go ahead and click lock guides, so now I can't do anything. I can't move it. I can't select it. But if I right click on it, I can't do anything. But if I right click anywhere, I get this grids and guides section. That's what I was looking for earlier. I go ahead and just make sure I go lock guides. Click out that off, and then I can select it again and delete it. Right. So anyway, those are guides. Smart guides, to be honest, really are going to do what you need to do, unless there's something very specific in your layout that you're going to need. Smart guides are really going to handle it for you. Just realized this guy was off a little bit. So that's going to solve your problem 99.9% of the time. But if there is that little weird instance where smart guides aren't doing it, then you can do that, right? So which is cool. You can create your own guides and stuff. You put text over top of stuff too. Like we didn't really talk about that, like kind of getting fancy with text. I can go ahead and I could just go ahead and put a box right here and type in something like my heading. Okay. Now I tried typing in that. As you can see, I've got on this image. Oh, text wrap's not on. Let me do that again. I'm gonna grab my text box here. There you go. Heading. And put that over top of this. There it is there. I just couldn't see it. And I could come in here and Lato heavy. Oops, that's a stroke. That's why. Make it nice and big. You know, so you can of course put text over top, highlight it, change my fill color to white, for example, and you can kind of get creative and you can do all that kind of stuff, move things like that. So if I preview view screen mode, preview, looks like it's cutting into that. So like you can still do all kinds of really cool artwork stuff like that. And that's very simple, but you get the idea. You can also draw custom shapes as well. So there's a pen tool. So you can actually draw, if you've ever worked with a pen tool in Illustrator or Photoshop, you can go ahead and do that too. So you can come in here and, you know, draw shapes and stuff. We're going to play around with that in the future and stuff, but you can start drawing shapes and custom shapes and stuff in here too. Those tools are here. Or you can just bring Illustrator or Photoshop files directly into it as well. So I have like flyer example. Cool. Awesome. Now, keep in mind, remember I talked about attention points? There's a attention point right there, right? This comes in here that the font is actually creating attention points. So you can come in here and you can do some fun stuff, right? So I could go in here first of all, and I could make, where is it? Object. Convert shape paths. Where is it? Let's see, outlines. Oops. There it is, create outlines. Oh, it's under type, create outlines. So I could actually turn this text into outlines, which makes it so it's an actual shape. Check this out. Go into here, go create outlines. That turns it into an editable shape. And then I can come in here if it's just that, and I could actually click on here. Take a look at this. Nope. Grab the little edge there and kind of move it down just so it goes off the edge here and get rid of that. Of course, it looks terrible until you click away and then you'd see it. But so if there's like a little tension point that's being created, you can solve those little things like that just by editing the shape. You can edit anything on here, like, you know, move that like that or something. This is totally now a vectorized version. It's pretty neat. I can line this up now exactly how I want. Right, exactly how I want. Make sure that there's no tension point. That's good. Go to my preview. It needs to come down a little bit too. There we go. Right, pretty neat. It's hard to read it because the Y's being like lowercase like that, but as you can see anyway, just playing around. But you do cool stuff like that in here too. Awesome. Okay. That really wraps up everything we need to talk about for InDesign for today, kind of like an intro to InDesign. That was a couple hours anyway. I'm going to stop recording that and then we'll create another one too. There you go, InDesign.